Yeah, so I first jumped into a fin back in 2015, where I got lent a boat from the British Association, and back then I was a young laser sailor who was getting a bit too big for the class, and naturally the UK guys were quite keen to get me into the fin, so I jumped in back then, did my first UK nationals in 2016, and didn't really look back. And it just kind of grew from there here with about five, six other young British sailors jumping into the boat. And, we all worked hard together and progressed for 4 or 5 years campaigning in the fin. Yeah, yeah. So after the fins got dropped, I lost about 30 kilograms and jumped into a laser for a year. And that was really tricky. Going partially, I was in my comfort zone in the fin. I had my social network and all the support of my friends in that class to then quite truthfully unhealthily changing my body to quite an extreme amount to get back into a laser, which was it just wasn't natural for me. I couldn't maintain that way. So physically, I found it difficult, but psychologically, it was very hard. So yeah, that was a real shame to lose to Finn then, but it's nice to see the Finn. It's still got this great support network socially and such a competitive fleet, whereas a lot of other classes have suffered in a lot larger way. Um, so it was a bit of a it felt like a bit of a kick to the shins, but the class is still thriving, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it a little bit more over the next coming season. Yeah, definitely. I'm still sailing dinghies for fun. I race an international 14 class, which is quite different to a fin. It's a two-person skiff. And then working, yeah, I jump across a lot of sports keel boats and some bigger yachts, and it is very transferable. Obviously, the biggest difference is you go from sailing on your own to sailing in a crew with other people. So you do have to change a little bit there, but the physicality, the tactics and strategy, they're all such transferable skills. Things you can learn in the fin class, you can take with you for the rest of your career. And even outside of sailing, I credit most of the skills I've learnt down to my career within sailing. So they are very transferable and very beneficial to you. Yes, that's my plan. I've done a lot of work over the past few years with some Danish fin sailors. I went out and did the Danish nationals a few years back, and I've done a few coaching sessions with them, and they're a really fantastic group of guys. Every fin sailor I've met on usually they're an awesome group, but the Danish fin, they're very good sailors, but also they know how to run a good event. They they're really there for the racing and for the social side of things, and they make sure everything runs smoothly. So I'm really excited for that. Aarhus as well is I did the 2018 Worlds there, and that was obviously an awesome venue with great facilities. So very excited to be heading back there next year and yeah, get back on the course with the rest of the world. I've never been to Cannes. I've not been to Cannes. I've did the French nationals up in Carnac back in 2016, but that was the last time I did racing that way, other than here also. But yeah, never can. So I'll be looking forward to going to Cannes if I can get the time in my schedule. I've got Aarhus locked in, which I'm very excited about. Aarhus is a venue. When we were there last, it was very tricky because each day was slightly different. With the wind coming from the city, it can be a bit shiftier, a bit more tactical, and you have to think a lot more about it. And then in different directions, you can get big rolling swell, really challenging conditions, which a fin excels in. Where a lot of classes might start to struggle and it might be a bit more survival. You got the fin still punching through and racing hard. And even back in 2018, when we had a huge hailstorm, some of the most phenomenal photos came out where other classes rigs were snapping, they were coming in and abandoning them, and we still managed to squeeze out a race in some of the most extreme conditions I think I've personally raced in. So hopefully maybe it'll be a little bit less than that, but whatever it is, it'll be good fun. In sailing tips, obviously there's a lot. maybe it might be a bit rudimental, but my biggest advice to anyone, be it in a fin or not, is to truly enjoy it. Um, the best sailing I ever did was to when I was having the most fun. I didn't touch a boat for 12 months after I did the year in the laser because, well, truthfully, I wasn't enjoying any of it and I didn't want to be there. But surrounding yourself in a community like what the Fin class has, where they'll look after you and have a drink with you and talk through the races and how to get that boat going a bit faster and enjoying the racing. That's where the best sailing comes from, in my opinion, is when you're having fun, enjoying it. But in terms of fin specific stuff, obviously it's a big, powerful boat. Um, and I think it's about knowing when you need to tame it and be aggressive, and then when you need to let the boat almost sail itself. Sometimes it can be really easy to jump in the boat, especially if you come from something like a laser, where you obviously they're a lot lighter, and you think you can dominate it. Sometimes you can't with the fin. You know that they are big, heavy, powerful, and strong. So yeah, but obviously there's a lot, and learning to pump, get your pumping technique down, and that's a huge, huge plus. Um, I think I think the best technical stuff. There's a huge gain in downwind boat speed in a fin. Because upwind, it's tactically very similar to boats a lot of people have previously sailed, like in a laser. The setup of it in many ways is similar. But downwind, there's a huge boat speed difference between those who have got their pumping technique down and those who haven't. Best advice is one, speak to people, but also look at videos online because obviously there's a lot which goes into it. But working out how it works for you, you know, it can be very individual. But making sure you're 1-to-1 on that main sheet. Obviously, as the wind comes up and gets windier, maybe you drop off and go 2-to-1. That can then be faster in those situations. But really using your body weight on the exit of those pumps and then following with your arm sheeting. It's quite hard to describe it and picture it. The best is to be able to look online. There are some very good videos online. But that is such a key area in terms of it's such a huge game. There's a lot of people out there who maybe don't maximize their time downwind. The other thing in terms of the setup of a fin is very key. A lot of people don't change their settings an awful lot. They think going sailing is the most important thing. Now that is true. Obviously, it's a balance, but making sure you've got the right leech tension, making sure you've got your deck in the right position. Now, again, whether you've got a North or WB, your sail, your design, that's all going to change it. You can't just say it's going to be this amount of mil and this amount of poundage on your leech, because what works for me might not work for you or for someone else. So it's having a look online, chat to your sailmakers, find out the numbers, get a tension gauge, and just have a play. You know, start off on maybe 70, mid 70s on your poundage, go for a sail and knock off a couple of turns on your turn screw and see how that feels. The boat's so responsive, it'll tell you whether it's powered up or whether you're not powered up enough. And you know, have a waterproof notepad and make notes out on the water of what you started on, what you changed to, and how that felt. And that's going to make such a huge difference when you're at an event, from being able to replicate those feelings and knowing what's good and what's slow and how the boat feels. And I think letting the boat talk to you is a real key area. Yeah, that's a really hard question because unfortunately, and this is a great thing about the fin, but the fin works every part of your body. You really sometimes can't focus so much on one thing because whether it's upwind or downwind, you're using a whole plethora of muscle groups. Now, again, downwind is such a huge aspect for the boat. What makes a fin special? Not many classes have this open pumping downwind. Now, a lot of people have the technique, but can't replicate it for a whole downwind, a whole race, or a whole week. So as that being such a key area in such different boat speeds in the fleet, the best way to be able to replicate that is actually rowing. Now, rowing is very similar physically to pumping. You've got the cardiovascular elements, your legs are involved and your arms are involved. So going through short interval training on your rowing can be really beneficial in replicating those scenarios. And then just working all key muscle groups. Obviously, we use our legs so much. So doing your simple stuff in the gym, your squats, your deadlifts, everything, making sure you have a nice strong back with that as well. They all work together. So I think having a big balanced muscular sessions, lots of cycling, lots of rowing, but trying to replicate what we do on the water in the gym, on a bike is really important. Now, the other thing is we always say we're trying to replicate what we do on the water. Just going sailing sometimes is some of the best fitness you could possibly do. In a boat like a Finn, we've all come in off the water absolutely knackered, more tired than if we'd done 3-4 hours in the gym. So sometimes really pushing yourself physically out on the water, that's the best way to improve your fitness, getting that boat fitness up. I think that can be really important as well. I think some people respond very well to rowing. Me personally, sometimes I struggled to stay enthusiastic, especially if it was a longer session on a rowing machine. Some colleagues of mine back in the training group, Callum Dixon, he's now actually in the British rowing team. He's transitioned across to that from the Finn. And I think that shows how, again, transferable the fitness of a Finn can be, because he spent so much time on the rowing machine, him and others in the team, and just excelled at it. It was phenomenal, just this natural power and raw strength, and focused on that for the benefits of his sailing, and now that's benefited him further down his career. So having that mental strength to push through sometimes can be the difference on a race course. So but yeah, no, 10 kilometers on a rower, yeah, it's a good effort. I adore the Finn class. I think you can't put it on one reason. Growing up, obviously as a 6 foot British teenager, as a sailor, you look up and go, well, what boat do I want to sail in the future? And you look at the Olympic classes and you go, well, it's got to be a Finn. We've had so many legends pass through the class, both from our nation and internationally. So it's got this phenomenal prestige around it, where the class has been going on for so long. You look at the Gold Cup and the names on there, it's just a list of absolute sailing legends. So I think that was a big pull for me. And that's what got me in the class. But the thing which keeps me coming back to the class is the high level of racing nationally and internationally. You always get these big names coming back to the boat. Last year we had Ed Wright, a couple of the younger. You had Dolma from Hungary come back into the class. I'm sure we'll get some good names back again next year, as well as the recurring ones we've got through the year. So I think that the high quality of racing and the high quality of the boats is what brings you back in. Once the Finn class has touched you, once you've sailed the boat a few times at a regatta, it makes a bit more sense to why it's still so popular. And yeah, it does pull you back in.